Okay guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So we're going to have a look at Piko Collection 3, the first third collection on Evercade, and this comes complete with 10 games. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so this is Piko Collection 3, 10 games, pretty cool. There's some really interesting stuff on this, including maybe 40 winks and 0 tolerance being the outstanding ones, I guess. There's a few other interesting games included, and there's a few stinky games as well, I have to admit. There's a couple of games that are probably pretty poor. But yeah, that's just my opinion. At the end of the day, you might think differently. Let's have a quick look at the cart, which is very nice indeed. Nothing free with this one, no posters, no stickers, absolutely nothing. We've got Piko Collection 3, let's have a quick bash at the manual. It tells you obviously all about Piko Interactive, some of the games that they've curated and pulled the license for over the last few years, which is quite interesting. It's great. It basically brings new life to a lot of these old games that maybe you passed by back in the day. Well, and 40 Winks was definitely one of them because it was probably up against some stiff competition at the time. Now, interestingly, we've just looked at Amiga Collection. Rough and Tumble was actually an Amiga game, which was really good. Yeah, I would love that game on Evercade at some point. 0 Tolerance. This is obviously technically the first person shooter on Evercade. There is probably another one on Tari Lynx, but I don't really see that as a first person shooter personally. But anyway, Legend of Wukong, which is a RPG game. We've got Stanley, the Search for Dr. Livingstone. Kind of looks alright. It's kind of like a Dizzy style game, sort of. Super Bubble Pop, which you probably tell, it's a Game Boy Advance game. We got a NES, Metal Mech Man and Machine. There's a lot of information going on here. This one's actually pretty cool, quite interesting. Certainly want to pay attention to some of these controls because it will certainly make a big difference how you play, especially some of this stuff here. You can jump in and out of the mech, which I'll explain when we're playing. Radikal Bikers, now this one's never been released before. I think this is a Game Boy Color, and this one is probably a lot more fun than you might expect. It's pretty cool. Motor City Patrol, now this kind of looks like a Grand Theft Auto style game, but yeah, it's certainly one that's nowhere near as good as that. It's pretty basic in comparison, but apparently this game actually goes for quite a lot on like markets and stuff for a full physical copy, which is interesting, but don't know why. Punch King, which is kind of cool, Game Boy Advance style punch out game, which is quite nice looking, and it's alright, it's quite cool. And last but very least is Sword of Sodan, which is notoriously for being an absolute stinky game. Yeah, probably one of the worst games you'll ever play on Evercade. But is it though? I don't know. We'll find out in the video. Let's have a look at it. But it looks really cool. Massive sort of sprites there, but yeah, it's not good. Anyway, let's have a quick bash on the EXP before we have a bash on the VS. And again, much like I said in the Amiga video, I've been sort of playing these games full screen because you can just about get away with it. It doesn't look too stretched or too bad at all. But yeah, please don't have a go at me. You may prefer it to be original ratio or pixel perfect or something, but yeah, I think you can get away with playing it like this. Oh, I've just pressed the wrong button. It's something I certainly wish that we could maybe change is the button layout a bit. You can obviously now configure your own controls, and there's a couple of layouts here that you can change between, but I think I'd love to like use the triggers as shooting and maybe switching between the weapons, I guess using the shoulder buttons, which is not something that's defaulted to, which is yeah, a bit rubbish I guess, but you can change that layout if you're updated to the latest firmware. This is quite cool. It's not the most amazing first person shooter, but it's still really good fun to play. Considering this was on the Mega Drive, it's pretty cool, and I've run out of weapons on that already. Anyway guys, let's get this playing on the VS and I'll give you my honest opinions of each game, the whole cart overall. Without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, no talking, no pillow fights, and no reading under the covers.
Okay, so here we have 40 Winks, which is the cover star of the cart and the first game on the collection. But for me, it's probably not the best game on the collection at all, but it's still a solid game. It's probably a kind of a slightly above average 3D platformer, and it's pretty unique in the fact that Evercade doesn't really have any 3D platformers like such. And it's okay, but it does suffer a lot from the usual stuff that you got from these style of games back in the day. Was the camera was an absolute nightmare to actually control and get your character into the centre of the screen, especially when you get into some of the buildings. It's just an absolute nightmare. But that isn't an Evercade fault. That is a fault with the game style genre that was pretty much the same for every game, whether it be on the N64 or even on the PlayStation back in the day. But this game, it's alright. You have to go through each of the stages, and there's a heck of a lot of stuff to collect. You've got your Zs that you need to keep collecting, the Zs, Zs, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that your character stays awake. So they're basically like health points. There's lots of other things. There's like the moons. I don't know what that does. It's some kind of scream thing that comes out. There's RT, rough and tumble tokens. Not entirely sure what they are. And there's a ton of other things as well. The most important thing is probably something like the cogs and other. I think there's other sort of tokens that you need to collect as well. You need to collect the cogs because they help you open up some of the areas, the doors for example, and even some of the parts where the Winks are being sort of enslaved. So you need to rescue 40 Winks through all the different stages. There's plenty of variety, but it certainly does steal a lot from Banjo-Kazooie. It's very much heavily influenced by that game, and that's quite obvious when you're going through the game. And it's definitely nowhere near as good as Banjo-Kazooie, but for Evercade it certainly stands out. It's very unique in that sense, but back in the day it probably was missed by a lot of people because there was a lot of other games that were certainly a lot better, such as Spyro, Banjo, Super Mario, that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure though on Evercade it will certainly find its audience, given the fact that it's quite unique and it will not take you just a couple hours to finish. It will certainly be one of those games that will maybe take you a good 10-12 hours or something to actually get through, I guess, if you're trying to collect every single thing that's going on. It's not a perfect game at all. It's certainly got a lot of frustrations with the cameras, trying to take out the enemies. It does get a little bit tricky here and there. But it's alright. There's certainly a lot of wandering back and forth trying to find cogs and stuff, and it does get a little bit frustrating. But it's okay, it's certainly playable, but I don't think it's the amazing game that a lot of people might think it is. It's just one of those ones that's slightly above average, but it's certainly very welcome on Evercade. I hope we see a little bit more of these style of games, that's for sure. Okay, so this is Sword of Wukong, which is obviously an RPG style game, which was only really recently translated for the Western audiences, and it's alright. I kind of feel when I'm playing it I'd rather be playing Breath of Fire, which was on the Capcom collection on the EXP, but it's alright. I think it's one of those games that certainly you're going to have to grind at it to even get somewhere, I guess. There's some sort of tips I can give you to try and help you get on your way there, but you obviously get sent to this land of Wukong, I think it is, in this time machine, and you get sort of stranded there and you need to find your way back home kind of thing, and your adventure starts there. And it's pretty standard fare for RPG territory. You've got lots of little villages that you need to go through, and it does the style definitely reminds me very much of Breath of Fire in the way that it sort of works. There's lots of random battles as usual, and there's lots of things you can sort of up your health, get extra armour and the thing, but just be wary of as soon as you step out of this sort of village, it does get very difficult and you're really not prepared. So the best thing to do is try and stock up and try and up your weaponry as soon as you get the chance to, and you can also do a little bit of cheating by utilising this bet shop. And you can also do a little bit of save states sort of thing to try and make sure you always win. You can just build up your gold, and then that way you can buy all the good stuff from the store. Maybe even another tip is just go out, do a battle, get all the points, then go back to the village, do a battle, and then just keep doing that till you've got to a decent level before you can go out and tackle the game properly, because I think right away the game does feel really, really difficult for me. But if you do this way, you might actually get something out the game, and it does start a little bit grindy, but it might become a little bit more bearable. But in this video, there's no way I can do this justice whether this is a good game or not. It seems okay, it's certainly very standard fare, but I can't really give my honest opinion on this as yet until I've played it properly, and it would most likely take me a number of weeks, maybe even a month or so, to even get that far in the game to make a proper sort of opinion of it. But it seems alright. I don't think it seems amazing, but it certainly seems alright, and if you're an RPG fan, I'm sure you'll really enjoy it. Okay, so this is Metal Mech, and this one's kind of a weird, given the fact that it's not that clear what you're supposed to do on each level, apart from destroy everything that gets in your way, get out the machine occasionally and try and destroy things and collect that, what I've just collected, that nuclear sort of sign. I think, I'm not entirely sure if that's what you're supposed to do, but I know you sort of get out the machine by pressing select and B, I think it is, but you're certainly more vulnerable when you get out the sort of Robocop style machine there. But it is good fun. It is an absolute blast just going through the levels, literally just blasting the heck out of everything that comes your way. Don't try and take everything out, because their enemies do seem to randomly generate all the time. So I wouldn't waste too much time. Just make your way through the level, destroy as much things as you possibly can, and then somehow get to the exit. Again, I've got to the sort of second level and it's not even that clear what the heck you're supposed to do. Just try and make your way through the level and destroy stuff, and it makes no sense whatsoever, but it is fun. And that's for sure. It is good fun to play, it's a good blast, but I just wished it was more clear what your objective is on each level. But don't get me wrong, it is a good fun game to sort of work your way through. That's certainly something that becomes apparent when you're playing it. Okay, so moving on to Motor City Patrol, which obviously looks like a Grand Theft Auto style game, but don't be fooled, it's certainly not Grand Theft Auto, which is a pity because it kind of looks like that. Obviously it was heavily inspired by, I think it was die-cast cars, the sort of Matchbox cars at the time, and obviously all that stuff has been removed for this version. And apparently this game does sell for quite a lot physically for some bizarre reason. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think it's a kind of frustrating game. Your idea is to try and take out obviously all the crime doers in the sort of city you see here, but the control of the car is odd, and you have to constantly refer to the on-screen map by pressing, I think, start or select, because you've no idea where the crimes are happening. It would be nice if there was sort of arrows telling you where to go, or there's something, so you need to try and refer to this map, and it's not even clear which part of the map you are actually in, but you're supposed to be, I think it's taking out the red and maybe blue cars. They're the ones committing the crime. Red, probably they've just robbed something, and maybe the blue ones are the speeders, so it's best to stay away from the green ones because they're just usually innocent bystanders. If you try and arrest them, you'll get a warning. It's obviously the red ones that you try and stop, and what you're supposed to do is drive in front of them, just stop, put on your sirens, and eventually you will be rewarded for capturing them in some way. It's just a bit weird. It's alright, but I just don't think it's an amazing game. It's one of those ones I'm not really sure you're going to play it that long. You are limited to how long you can play it. I think each day lasts about 2 minutes or something. And if you fail and don't capture the speeders and the burglars, then you will game over basically, and that's it. So it's a little bit frustrating. I think it's one of those games that could have been better, but it kind of is what it is. It's alright, but just it's not amazing at all. Okay, this is Punch King Arcade Boxing, and this is a Game Boy Advance game, and it actually looks really nice. Nice colourful graphics, and the gameplay is really, really good. You could probably say this is the best boxing game on Evercade. There's a few others that are pretty similar, like the Punch Out game that we have, but I really enjoyed this one. It's certainly interesting. It's certainly quite noticeable. It's very big graphics, very bright, colourful graphics, and it certainly emulates really well as well on the Evercade. It's all about really timing your punches properly. Your A and B button do your punches. I think up and down is duck, and your shoulder buttons do some sort of blockages as well. You certainly need to time your punches. If you notice the other punchers, you just wait till he's about to punch you, and then you punch him. You'll maybe get a free punch in, and you kind of have to do that strategically with most of the boxers you come up against, but obviously it gets harder through the game. But I certainly enjoyed it. You can't just spam the buttons, it just does not work, because you see the green bar at the bottom is your stamina, and that just, if you keep spamming the buttons, that will go all the way down and you won't be able to punch at all, and you will basically be a sitting duck. I have to say, this game is pretty good. It's certainly one of those games that you're not going to play a lot of, because you'll probably get a little bit bored and fed up with it, but for what it is, a boxing game, this is really good fun. So this is Radikal Bikers, which was an unreleased console game. So this is quite a cool thing that we've got on the Evercade, a game that was never actually released. This is a Game Boy Color version, I believe. I think this was originally an arcade game, but I don't recall ever playing it. And this is actually quite good fun. You've got a few different options. You can sort of do a time trial sort of mode where you're actually delivering pizza, and it's basically just you against the clock sort of thing. And then you can also play a race against 3 other sort of computer controlled opponents. I mean, it is good fun. It's not exactly an amazing game, but somehow it is quite good fun. It's got nice graphics and nice sound, and it does become quite addictive. I'm not sure what the physics are all about right enough. It just doesn't seem to make a heck of a lot of sense, but it is good fun to play, and I certainly enjoyed it. It's one of those ones I'll most certainly go back to now and again, and certainly dip in and try and enjoy it. It is good fun. So this is Stanley, the Search for Dr. Livingston, and I think it's a NES version, and it's one of those games that's a little bit clunky for me to play. It's hard to describe the type of game it is. It's kind of like an adventure, sort of pick 'em up a little bit, kind of like Dizzy, where you pick up items and you need to take it somewhere and do that type of thing. Talk to everyone you sort of see. A lot of the characters don't really tell you a heck of a lot, but some of them give you a little bit of tips, and there's a lot of buildings you can go in and out and sort of investigate, pick up items such as knives and spears, sort of thing. There's lots of different stages in the game. I found it a little bit frustrating and a bit clunky to actually play through, but I'm sure this game will actually find its audience, and there'll be people out there that'll be very interested and find this enjoyable. For me, I thought I've just got a bit frustrated of the sort of game mechanics. I think the save states will certainly help a little bit. It's interesting, but I got a little bit stuck at times. I think there are some levels but you go on quite early and it's not actually clear where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do, so it's a little bit of experimentation and sort of investigate, talk to everyone, just keep going left to right. It does get a little bit confusing, but it's alright. It's certainly not my favourite game on the collection at all, but I'm pretty sure people will quite like this game, and if you do, let me know. But for me, I'm not really that keen. I'm not sure how much I'm going to actually spend playing this game over the other games on this cart. So this is the second Game Boy Advance game on Evercade. This is Super Bubble Pop, and I don't really think there's a lot I can tell you about this game apart from you're trying to clear the grid here by obviously matching up 3 colours or more, and it will obviously disappear, and then just keep going until you clear the grid. There's a few power-ups that you can sort of pick up on your way that destroys certain things on the grid. If you collect those level tokens, 3 of them, it will completely clear the grid and you can move on to the next level. I certainly found this game fun. It's not the most addictive style game like this. It's not really like Tetris or Columns or Bust a Move where it's really addictive and you just want to keep playing it. I think you'll probably get quite bored quite quickly playing this style of game, but it's alright. There's certainly nothing wrong with it. It's just nothing amazingly special, but it is playable and kind of fun for 5 minutes. Okay, Sword of Sodan. Now there's no doubt about it, this is the first game on Evercade that includes Sharon Stone and Emilio Estevez. We should be completely honoured. But unfortunately they star in probably one of the worst games you'll ever play on Evercade. But I've got a tip here to maybe make things a little bit better. Make sure you put your number of heroes to 7 and put the difficult level down to easy. Trust me, it will make a massive difference in the end. If you leave it as standard, you will be frustrated. It is the most horribly frustrating, awful game you'll ever play. But if you make it a little bit easier on yourself, you might actually enjoy it to an extent. But there's no doubt about it, the graphics are quite eye-catching, and they certainly were, I guess, at the time. But there's a lot of things about this game that are completely wrong and just absolutely tedious to play through. Your moves are very limited. You basically just need to try and stab the enemies till they die, and the enemies just appear to keep coming. If you sort of put the difficult level down, the enemies are a little bit less so, and they're obviously not quite as aggressive as well. There are potions that can help you on your way, but make sure you only pick one at a time. If you try and pick 2 at a time or 3, 4, you will only use one and you will lose the other, so just be careful of doing that. You need to press the select button, I think, then choose the potion with the X and then unpause, press select again, then press X again to use the potions. There's a few different potions such as health, stamina, and also one kind of magic potion that kind of gets rid of your enemy that's on screen. There's also a flame potion as well. But anyway, this game really is, it's absolutely atrocious. If you play it on the sort of normal difficult level, it is unbelievably frustrating, and you might even find that you'll probably not even escape that first stage. But if you sort of make it a little bit easier on yourself, you will probably make your way through the levels and see a little bit more of the game. And it's one of those games that's probably so bad it's good. I don't know. Did I really say that? I don't know. It's one of those games it's just bad. Look at this level, is so laughably bad that the spikes that are coming up certainly affect you, but they don't seem to affect the enemies that you're fighting. That is a miracle. I'm so glad that they didn't get hurt, but that is basically summing the game up perfectly. It's got a lot of things that are just completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure there'll be people out there that will actually quite enjoy this. But I have to be really honest, it's certainly going to be one of those games that it's going to be up there with some of the worst games you'll play on Evercade, and it certainly begs belief why they would put this game on the collection. It's notorious for being one of the worst games on Mega Drive, so now we have it on Evercade. It's one of the worst games on Evercade. But amazingly, I did actually have a little bit of fun once you actually dumbed the game down a little bit, sort of making your way through the game, just trying to stop laughing as you're playing and realising how awful it is. But anyway, I'll let you enjoy my gameplay. I actually played the game more than I thought I would. So the final game on the collection is Zero Tolerance, and this is probably my most favourite game on the collection, and it's the one I've certainly played the most so far. This is a first person shooter. You could say technically it's the first person shooter on Evercade, certainly the most traditional style one. It's certainly not a Doom beater. Don't get me wrong, it's certainly no doom beater, but it's certainly a good game and it's worthwhile of playing. If you love your first person shooters like Doom, you'll really enjoy this one. It does get a little bit tricky and frustrating because you have to go through every single stage and level. I think it said there was 40 levels and you need to clear every level out of every single enemy that you see to sort of clear the infected out. So it does get a bit frustrating because you have to go back and forth quite a lot. There is a map to sort of help you, but it's very limited. You can use a scanner which tells you where all the sort of enemies are, and there's a lot of different varied weapons. So that's certainly one you would want to probably use those save states and use them a lot. It's not a perfect game. The enemies certainly seem to jump all over the place, but technically it's amazing that they actually got this on the Evercade, on the Mega Drive, and it's absolutely brilliant that we have it on the Evercade, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it and playing it on the go on the Evercade EXP. Cannot wait to get stuck in more.
Shotgun collected. Shotgun collected. Shotgun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Medipack collected. Medipack collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Health condition low. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Shotgun collected. Shotgun collected. Shotgun collected. Medipack collected. Medipack collected. Ammunition is low. Medipack collected. Health condition low.
So my final thoughts on Piko Collection 3. So after playing through a lot of these games a lot more in depth, it certainly does grow on you, and there's certainly a lot of variety on the collection. Admittedly, if you think back to Piko Collection 1, there was 20 games on that collection, and on Piko Collection 3 we now only have 10, so not really sure what's going on there and why we only get, getting a lot less games on the carts these days, but it is what it is. It's probably not as good as Piko Collection 1. That one's certainly going to stand as one of the best Collection on Evercade, but this is certainly not bad at all. It's certainly not the best collection, but it's certainly not the worst either. There's a few games on here that are pretty good, like Zero Tolerance. 40 Winks is alright. There's a few other games that are quite good fun to play. There's a couple of poor games like Motor City Patrol and Sword of Sodan, and the rest are kind of a maybe okay, fun, just above average. But overall, it's not a bad cart at all. It's certainly one you'd be worth picking up. Quite unique to have a 3D platformer like 40 Winks on Evercade. It'll certainly stand out for that, even though it's not the most amazing game, but it's certainly one you'll maybe want to play through if you did miss it back in the day. But yeah, I think if you're looking to pick up some collections, Piko Collection 3 is certainly one you should put on your list to play. I think I preferred the Amiga collection. That one is probably going to be my most favourite collection on Evercade. At the moment, that is. It's certainly great fun. I've loved all the games. This one's certainly a little bit down the list of collections on Evercade, but certainly I would say pick up if you can. Anyway, thanks very much for watching our video. Please like, subscribe, and I'll catch you again in the next one. And thank you very much for making it this far as well. Sorry it was so long. Bye for now.